Well, good morning, everybody, and you're very welcome to Sheriff Street. Almost 20 years ago next month, I arrived down here as a young teacher, and I began teaching across the road in Lawrence O'Toole's Girls' School. And I decided in the early months of my teaching career that the kids probably needed a football team because they didn't have a football team. And coming from where I come from, and maybe the school that I went to, I didn't realize that every school in the country didn't have a yard, didn't have a playground, and didn't have a hall. And that's what our school didn't have. So when setting up a football team, I had to come here. And this is probably where I spent the happiest hours of my teaching life, in this very hall. We had to book it every Monday to train the kids in Gaelic football and in football, as we call it, in this part of the world, to see what they could do to maximize their fantastic potential and to reach for the stars. And of course, we won everything, because the kids were absolutely fantastic. Went 3 years unbeaten. 2001 county champions, 2002 county champions, 2005, 2008, 2009. And we did it all in this room together. But children don't live in schools, they live in communities. And when faced with an awful lot of the disadvantages that they had, it was heartbreaking for me and for other teachers in the school to realize there were so many reasons why they couldn't maximize their potential. The way society looked at them, sometimes the way they looked at themselves. And that's why I joined the Labour Party. Because Niamh Bhreathnach, who is here, was one of the first politicians to actually intervene in disadvantaged schools and to make a change, and to realize that schools needed more support and children needed more support in her Breaking the Cycle scheme in the 90s. It was Liz McManus who first told me when I was just joined the Labour Party that I might someday be a future leader. And it's great here to also be with colleagues and councillors and friends from up and down the country who believe in a Labour Party that can change lives. We were all brought up, I think, to look around us, to have a sense of duty, to not just look about ourselves, but look at others around us. And that's why the Labour Party is so important. But any political party has a relationship with the people. And if you have a relationship, if there's somebody in your life who thinks that you've let them down, who thinks that they can't trust you anymore, either you go within yourself and deny that, and in your head come up with statistics as to why they're wrong, or you accept it, you try to mend it, and you try to move together into the future. We want the Irish people to trust us again. And we cannot do that if we come up with the same answers that we've had for as long as I've been a member of the Labour Party. Back to basics, work harder, back into communities. Every single Labour representative, every single Labour member is in their community, is working hard, is doing their best to achieve what they can for themselves and for their community and for their area. But they are hamstrung, I think, by a sense that the public have about our party. Now, we are either part of the establishment or we are part of the change. And I want the Labour Party that I will lead to be part of that change. I want people to look at the Labour Party and say, they are on my side. I may not actually always agree with what they say, but at least I know they believe it. And I want the Labour Party to be a campaigning party. So when we take on issues, such as Aodhán has with the abortion issue over 20 years, when many people inside the Labour Party and outside the Labour Party often told her to be a little bit more quiet. When people talk to me about drug policy, when people talk to Jed Nash about trade unionism, about workers' rights, and about minimum wage, and the fact that we have 25% of our workers in this country on low pay, second only to the United States, those are the issues that we have to campaign on because we want to improve society. The first thing I will do as leader of the Labour Party is to break the employer veto on negotiating with workers. We will introduce legislation to break that veto, to ensure that workers have the right to trade union representation, and that employers have to engage with that representation. And if we are told in Leinster House by the Attorney General or by any other political party that it's not constitutional, then we will force a constitutional amendment. We will have a referendum campaign. We will change the Constitution to ensure that it's a Constitution not just for people, but also for the worker. So look, we believe in so many things. We don't believe in just reacting. We believe in proposing. It's not just about what you're against, it's what you're for. The children I taught in the school, the teachers that I work with, the parents who I was happy to serve as a teacher, and then as a councillor in this local area, the first place I ever got elected, and then as a TD and a Minister of State, and now, as Jed says, a TD again. It's for those children, but it's also for children such as Ali's James, let down by the system. 1,500 children on the north side of Dublin who can't get speech and language therapy. Those sort of statistics should shame us in the Republic. But there are answers, we can find answers, and we can work on them together. So our Labour Party will be a party of the future. Our Labour Party will find solutions. Our Labour Party will be a campaigning Labour Party, and I very much appreciate your support in my campaign for the leadership of the Labour Party. So seeing as I never got any appreciation from the children that I taught, I'm quite happy to take questions that people may have. It is, but we have to realise the scale of the task that is ahead of us. Only 2% of young people between 18 and 24 chose Labour in the most recent general election. The only more unpopular party was Aintu. If you are looking at the Labour Party and don't see change, if you look at the Labour Party and don't see that we're on your side, if you look at others and think that they represent change, progression, a new Ireland, and you don't look at Labour, either we say that they're wrong or there's something wrong with us. And, you know, I know I'm going to use a football analogy because we're into football here, but if a new manager comes to a football team and says, right, we have to do laps around the training pitch, that's going to get us sorted. That's old style. That's not going to win. That's not going to do anything for anybody. What we have to do is to engage in the new politics, in the new reality that 20 years ago you could have filled Leinster House with representatives from Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Labour. Today, we couldn't even form a government together. Now, we are part of the establishment, as people sometimes may think that we are, or we are part of the change. Now, if we have spent 100 years, since Jim Larkin, about a couple of hundred yards away, spoke to the dockers on the river outside, if we've spent 100 years changing this country, then I think people need to realise that we also still want to change this country. And they don't look at us as change, well then that's something we have to realise. But it won't happen with the old answers about back to basics, roll up the sleeves, back into communities. We're doing that. We have always done that. But we have to realise that people have a different perception of us now, and we have to repair that relationship that we have with the Irish people.
Like yourself and Jed and Alan Kelly, you were part of that government that broke people's trust between 2011 and 2016. So how can you trust that it won't be the same again, or you to go in and win?
Well, absolutely. And I think if somebody is to say, you know, the time for apologising is over. Well, if you have a relation with somebody and they still don't trust you, if you have relationships with somebody and they think an apology might actually help, if they are on your side but just not there with you yet, yeah? If we're willing to actually look within ourselves and say, okay, what is the barrier between us and you working with us again? Were you supporting us again? Because I speak to loads of people who believe in Labour values, and they're almost there. They're almost there, but there's something holding them back, because there's a whole lot of other people they could support. Now, if there's something we can do or change or admit or acknowledge into the future to make sure people don't think we're ever going to do that again, I said in my literature in the most recent election, the most thing I ever learned in politics was losing my seat in 2016. You learn more from losing than you do from winning. I lost, I reflected on it, I realised why I lost, because people lost faith in me and felt I wasn't on their side. I didn't lose by much, but I lost. Regaining my seat, talking to people on the doors, I said I swore I would never, ever, ever let anybody down again. And that's what the Labour Party has to say to ourselves, that we will never, ever, ever let anybody down again. Now, we can point to so many things that we achieved in government. What Aodhán achieved, what Jed achieved, what I would like to say I achieved. From social reforms, from referendum reforms, to low-pay commission, to bringing unemployment down from 15% to almost full employment. But if people feel that we let them down, well, then we have to address that into the future.
Sinn Féin obviously takes Labour's lunch at the election. They appeal to working class areas and disadvantaged communities. I'd hazard a guess if you walked out the store, Mary McDonald got an awful lot more votes than Joe Costello. How can you combat that? How can you return to being the party that represents those communities?
Well, our job isn't to take on any other political party necessarily. Our job is to take on poverty pay employers. Our job is to take on the right-wing elements of this country that will keep workers down. Our job is to take on the new right-wing racism that seems to be emanating across the country. Our job is to stand up for communities. It's not just to play the political game. I think Irish people are tired of one political party. The first thing that comes out of their mouth is a reference to another political party. Every time we speak, we have to think about the people that we're hoping to represent. Every time we speak, we should be thinking about communities, about young people, about children, about older people, about workers. If the first thing out of a politician's mouth is a reference to another political party, well, then that's tired and that's old, and it's what turns people away from politics in its entirety. Politics is good for people. Politics helps people. Politics can lift people. But if you want me just to have a pop at somebody else, I'm not going to do it. But I will say this. We are happy to work with anybody on the left who wants to achieve change. There are things in other people's manifestos that I agree with. But I don't agree with taking 450 million out of the local government funds so that councils can build buildings like this, libraries, sheltered housing, local authority funding. I don't believe in this anti-tax agenda. Must be against the carbon tax, must be against the local property tax, must reduce USE. I believe actually that taxation is the people's duty. I believe in tax justice. And I think also we need to have a realization that tax exiles are not doing what they should be doing for this country. And they can't be allowed to fly in and out of this place without anybody mentioning the fact that it is your duty as a citizen to pay for the guard, to pay for the nurse, to pay for the teacher, to pay for the local authority services. So look, if people on the left want to work with us, that's fine. But we want to work with people who genuinely want to achieve left-wing ideals and improve people's communities. Thank you, Senator.
I'm wondering whether your overall perception out there is that you're just too woke, too fluffy, and you don't really have the sort of brute bolshy Alan Kellyness that would really drive the Labour Party that stuff and then into electoral success.
Well, we've spent a lot of time taking on issues that other people don't write about and other people don't take notice of. If we have the third highest overdose rate in Europe, if people are dying of heroin overdose in toilets and in playgrounds and in alleyways behind hotels and people don't write about it, it's for politics actually to take on on those issues and to deliver change. Now, I was told by many people that the entire idea of a heroin injecting centre in the city centre was a bad idea. It's saving lives, it's true to Labour values, and it's the kind of thing that I think Labour should be proud of. I don't think that's woke. I think that's social justice, and that's what we believe in. Well, comment Aodhán nach bhfuair dóchan takeíocht an golas teach sa rialtas sa sin sudar do gachéine. Wis agad. Ag bhfuil tá mise ggéirda dhéana brana chun cín, brana machchan seo, a brana ar an todhchaí don fartaí seo, agus muidne a chur ar híomh an gná duine, mar a rinnemer le cé bliana anuas. Ach tá daoine brana orna inis, a brana beidir nach bhfuilmid ar a son, so cáid é sin airthú. Again, you want me to talk about somebody else, and you want me to talk. I am here to present what we want to do, okay? And that's the importance of politics. I think there's far too much in politics which is against another individual or another party. We are setting out our platform of what we want to achieve. We are setting out the fact that we realise that people do not look at us for change. We've spoken already about what we want to do in terms of workers' rights. You know, I'm so excited to be working with people like Jed and people like Aodhán and other supporters we have here from Labour Youth and Labour Women to have a different vision, not just for our party, but for our country. So it's up to me to give out what our message is. It's up for others to give out their message. You know, that's the. I think that's the important thing. I think I bring an I think I bring an analysis of where we've gone wrong. I think I bring an analysis of the fact that young people are turning away from us. I give an analysis that we have no right to exist. If 2% of the country, of young people of the country are voting for us and 98% are voting for others, well then we have an existential crisis, as has been already mentioned. So we acknowledge that. But I think I do feel that if we have a wounded relationship with the Irish people, and every political party has a relationship with the Irish people, but if ours is wounded, then we need to address that and be humble enough to address that. And I think possibly by losing an election, I have more of an insight into how to regain that trust than maybe other people in this race.
Alan Kelly appeals to people in the countryside. You insulted the people of Man and your wife's can't apologise for that, was there?
I already have, 5 years ago.
But what about the idea that you would confine Labour to the garrison town? Well, it needs to be appealed.
Well, I would say this much. I say this much about that issue. Look, Leinster House is remote to the people of, as remote to the people of Skibbereen as it is to the people of Sheriff Street. Okay? And if we were serious about politics, then we have to ensure that we take it outside of Leinster House. But I'm not a dub as much as I'm Irish. And I care as much about the children in Donegal and the disadvantaged children in Belfast and the disadvantaged children in Kerry as I do about the disadvantaged children here. And that has to be our vision and our focus, because that is the cause of Labour, is actually the cause of Ireland. Yeah, as I say, I'm happy to work with any other party of the left who wants to achieve real change. But I don't believe, as I said, that this anti-tax agenda is of the left. I don't believe in engaging in a sectarian head count in the north of Ireland is left. I don't believe in going to New York or Washington next month and taking money off Trump supporters is left. But I'm quite happy to deal with anybody who wants to build houses, state housing on state land. By the way, we wouldn't have any state land left if it wasn't the Labour Party in government, because the IMF wanted to sell it all off. So those who come down with solutions about building state housing on state land have to realise that we wouldn't have state land if it wasn't for the Labour Party. So those who have those solutions maybe need to recognise that we can only have those solutions because of what we did in our track record. I want to talk and listen and learn from every other party who positions themselves on the left. Because if they want to achieve change, if they want to build homes, if they want to fix health, if they want to end the waiting lists that Ali has spoken about, then yeah, let's do it together, because it's much more important than just politics and playing games. It's actually about the future of our country. I wouldn't rule out a coalition with anybody, but I would rule out a coalition with those of the right who don't share our vision of the country. But a huge amount has to change between this point and that point. And I use the phrase position themselves on the left deliberately. I'm quite happy to talk to the Social Democrats. I mean, they want to achieve the same things as we do. But again, a lot of questioning here is about other parties. And some of the questioning is here about other people. But the people that are most important are the people outside of this hall who are looking to politics to change their lives and want the Labour Party to change their lives. And I believe absolutely that we can do that if we get the chance to get to work and to work for the Irish people.
Folks, thanks very much. We're going to wrap it up there, if that's okay.
There's very one more. Well, I can say this much: there are things that the diplomacy demands of a political leader, and there's things that you do as a minister that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable with as a TD. But no member of the Labour Party belongs in a room with Donald Trump, and certainly no member of the Labour Party will ever be at a fundraiser with Donald Trump supporters taking money off them for their political party.